Hi guys, I am absolutely terrified, just to start that being really nice and clear about the fact that this is legitimately scary. Also just needed to explain very, very quickly, because I am poor at planning, I'm actually down at Cardiff Dogs Home, and I don't know whether you can see, I've got George with me, who is one of the current residents of what we call the Rescue Hotel. As you can see, George is living his best life. He's now going to start barking at me like a lunatic. Are you having a nice time, George? Loony. Absolute loony. So, like I said, we are not doing barking, so I'm going to walk away from that. Apologies, and please let me know if you can't hear me because of any wind or anything like that. It's blowing an absolute gale. Again, what I did was I thought, I'm going to bring a nice calm dog into the garden with me. What I have brought into the garden is a raging lunatic. Excellent. Okay, so little introduction. I'm Kahla. I run Valley's Dog Behaviour and Training. I wrangle dogs like this lunatic for a living. And I obviously work down at Cardiff Dogs Home. Again, please let me know if you can't hear me because of the wind. I'm trying to find somewhere that I can hide where it's not windy. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about was having more empathy for people in rescue. And the way that I wanted to do that was I wanted to tell you guys a couple of little stories more than anything else. So I wanted to explain to you about a couple of the dogs that have come in through mine and Cardiff Dogs Home's care, how we have, or the reasons why they've been signed over and stuff like that. And talking about adopters as well that have had problems with their dogs and actually had to return them to rescue. Now, in the rescue world, there's a big thing, or anything, you see it on Facebook posts, normally in like community hubs and things like that, where people admonish others and say, I can't believe you gave your dog up to a rescue. I know that they're going to kill that dog, they're going to euthanize that dog. The thing is, rescues do sometimes, that's the reality of it. However, good rescues only euthanize for the dog's welfare. So rescue, or euthanasia, is very far and few between down at Cardiff Dogs Home. So, first dog to introduce you to is George, who is, he's about 6 years old. He's a Great Dane Cross Labrador, so he's a big lump of a dog. I actually worked with him and his owner about 5 years ago, and he had some issues with reactivity towards other dogs, a little bit of reactivity towards people, gave lots and lots of homework, all of that sort of thing. They went away, did their thing. Hello from Poland. That's terrifying that you're watching from Poland. I'm absolutely awful at these things. I do a lot of babbling. Anyway, back to where I was. So George worked with him about 5 years ago. The owner managed to resolve a lot of his issues, so his dog reactivity improved hugely. He has a couple of dog friends now. He's no longer reactive to people. However, as her life changed, she ended up with grandkids, and George has some resource guarding issues, which in an adult-only home is absolutely fine. When you've got visiting grandchildren in particular, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So your own children are fairly trainable. However, when we're dealing with grandchildren and all of that sort of thing, obviously we can't necessarily train our grandchildren or anything like that. Hello, Julie. Hello, Gina. So George, unfortunately, 4 days ago was relinquished back to rescue. Now, we could take the line of, well, she should have trained her dog more. She should have gone to more training. She should have put more effort in. However, George was presenting a bite risk to members of the household. And he was presenting a bite risk to the children within the household, the visiting children rather. This resulted in George being shut away a lot of the time. It meant that one of her housemates, so she rented out a room, he had to move out because George kept trying to eat him. And you know what? We could say, you shouldn't have got that dog. You should have put more effort into that dog. We could say all of these things. But does that actually help the dog there? Those of you that tuned in at the beginning will have seen George's zoomies. He's not unhappy in rescue. He's not stressed in rescue. And what's going to happen is, Boris, oh my God, that's a blast from the past. That's years ago. How is he doing? Sorry, I need to turn the comments off. I think I'm a bit ADHD. I end up getting distracted by everything in the comments. So what was the kindest thing? For me to have a go at the owner, tell her that she hadn't done enough and take the dog off her, or to give her a COVID-distanced elbow bump instead of a hug, tell her that she was doing an act out of love for the dog and that she was protecting that dog and the grandchildren within her care. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I'd given her a right telling off, she still would have had to relinquish the dog and she still feels bad about it. Now, I've got my little post-it note of notes here. I've got a couple of other examples for you. So what we've got as well is we've got rescues that don't necessarily go as planned. I've got one that I refer to as the Kangal Fiasco. So I had somebody come to me a while ago. They had adopted a collie cross from Romania, and they were having some problems with this dog attacking dogs in daycare. So if a new dog came into the daycare environment, this dog would go absolutely nuts, and he'd attack it. It's quite prolonged attacks as well. And so I was like, okay, fantastic, no problem at all, bring him in and we'll see kind of what's going on, see whether I can advise anything. Obviously, the majority of the advice right from the start was going to be maybe daycare is not the right place for the dog. And they showed up, opened the boot and unloaded what I can only describe as an enormous purebred Turkish Kangal, which they had been told was a collie cross. Now, again, in that situation, I could have had a go at them. I could have said, why didn't you research the breed? Why didn't you get to know what this breed is all about? Why didn't you anything? However, they didn't know. They had no idea. A question that I ask any clients that come and see me that are struggling is, have you done the best that you can with the knowledge that you've got? And 99% of them, absolutely. They have done absolutely that. They could have a prong collar wrapped around that dog's eyeballs. If they believed that they were doing the best for their dog from what they knew, you can't knock them for that. You can't. We can change that, we can move on, but if they're doing the best that they can with the knowledge that they've got, they're doing absolutely fine. So credit where credit's due to these owners. What they did was I taught them through what a livestock guardian breed dog is, what they're all about. George has come back to have a little wander around and a look. Thankfully the zoomies have stopped now because he's about 50 kilos and it hurts when he crashes into you. So they went away, they researched the breed, I gave them lots and lots of information, and what they did was they decided, right, okay, what we're going to do is we are going to find out more about the livestock guardian breed, we're going to find out more and more information, and to be fair to them, they pulled the dog out of daycare, they started up scent work with the dog, they've started going on different types of walks rather than going to big open parks and things like that. Now, I could have had a go at them. Again, I could have judged them for it. I could have said, you should have known more. However, that wouldn't have achieved anything for the dog. Kindness and empathy changes things for the dog. So I don't know how far in we are to this chat, but we're probably about 10 minutes or so. And so far we've got George, who was in the wrong home and is now safe and he's happy. And he'll be going to an adult-only home with the right experience. We have a Turkish Kangal who is now going off doing scent work, doing all of that kind of thing. Tina, you know that I'm not mean. Tina is a client of mine. She's got a lovely, slightly reactive staffy. And I don't think I've ever told you off. Don't ruin it now by telling people that I tell you off. So another adopter example. We had, and this is just going to be a list of examples really, and I'm going to give you a tour around the kennels in a moment. Young border collie got taken from, as it transpired, the dog had come from a farm. He was a single pup and unsurprisingly was presenting with some very odd behaviours. He didn't like novel experiences, he had no idea how to interact with dogs, didn't really know how to interact with people, and was placed or bought and put in a home with young children and a family and all of that sort of thing. Now, very quickly, the dog started resource guarding. Now, one of the most obscure ones that he did was the wife of the household. She was stood next to her fridge eating cheese. She was eating cheese out of her fridge. I'm not going to judge anybody for eating cheese out of their fridge. That is something that I absolutely have done too much of during lockdown. And the dog walked in, saw she was eating cheese and attacked her. And it's quite a sustained attack. Thankfully, she was wearing fairly thick clothing and he didn't make any contact. But for a 6-month-old dog to do that is quite surprising. That amongst kind of other things that were going on, it was the wrong dog for the house. So I spoke to them and I said, look, I can't take the dog off you and I don't want to take the dog off you. However, what I can do is I can secure your rescue space. And what we can do is we can get the dog into rescue, we can assess him, and we can get him out into potentially the proper home. A bite later, and he was relinquished to rescue. Now, The unfortunate thing was, I've spoken to a couple of people about this case, and their immediate response was to go, well, they should have done more with him. They should have done more exercise. They should have gone training earlier. They should take up agility. They should give the dog a job. However, again, we're back to that. They didn't know. They didn't know. They did contact a trainer. They contacted me, but it was a little bit too little too late. However, that's not their fault at all. I have no idea why. George seems to find this lump very, very exciting and keeps furiously digging it and getting the zoomies. No idea. So this dog, he came down to Cardiff Dogs Home, and he's actually now going to go and live with our dog warden, which is very, very exciting. So he's going to live in an adult-only, male-only household, who is, like, he dotes on this dog. He absolutely adores him. Now, these people as well, they did do the best that they could with the knowledge that they had. So I've told them that I will give them a recommendation to rescue. I'll give them a recommendation to adopt from elsewhere if they wanted to. That is absolutely fine. This dog was just the wrong dog for the wrong house. And they didn't know more than that, and that's not their fault. Again, in the rescue world, quite often you see stuff online. You see people talking about these dogs being dumped at rescues, being signed over, being abandoned. And the thing is, sometimes it does happen. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Funnily enough, Chris Dennon, that's just cropped up. I am going to talk about Boris a little bit later because he's a good example of it. So, when we're looking at rescue and people signing dogs over, it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing for people to do. Now, we did have somebody that signed over another border collie. All I'm getting is border collies at the moment. Are any other trainers finding this? All I'm getting is adolescent border collies with behaviour issues. So they're young border collie, and they signed her over. Initially, they phoned up the dog's home because they were struggling with her, and the Cardiff Dogs Home, they advised contact a trainer, gave them my details, all that sort of thing. A couple of days later, they brought her down because, I quote, we don't want to do any of that training malarkey. It turns out the behaviour issues that were happening was that the dog had chewed up her bed a couple of times. That was it. Now, this is a situation where we could react with our angry faces. We could get up on our high horses about it. We could get very, very cross about the whole situation. However, does it help the dog? No. Does it help the people? No. They signed the dog over with a smile on their face. They were quite happy to relinquish the dog. They were waving at the other dogs going, oh, look at that cute dog. Maybe we could get one of them next time. And you know what? The thing is, that's where our laws need to change. And I'm not an expert on this. That's not what this talk is about, because I don't have that knowledge as to what the laws are with preventing the wrong people from getting dogs. I don't know what that is. Hopefully an expert can weigh in at some point, and maybe we can have another chat further down the line. But those people, again, that's kind of like the worst example, because they did dump their dog at the pound. They didn't want to do the training. They didn't want to do any of that stuff. However, me having a go at them is going to make them hate rescue centres. It's going to make them go, oh, those nasty people at the dog pound. And it's going to make them go out, and it's going to make them go and buy a poorly bred dog from Gumtree or something like that. It's not going to get them through the right channels to go and find the right dog in the future, if there is a right dog in the future. So, like I said, the laws need to change in regards to who can get dogs and why they're getting dogs. That does need to happen. But we can't be going out having a go at people, no matter how much of a knob they've been. I told you that there'd be a swear in here somewhere. So, looking at all of this sort of stuff, what we need to do is we need to be gentle with the people signing over. There's 2 border collie stories that I've told you now, one of which was a heartbroken family that dropped off their dog in floods of tears because it had been biting them. This dog was just too much for them. And the other one was a family that dropped off their dog because they didn't want to do the training, and they dropped the dog off with a smile on their face while waving at the other cute doggies at the rescue centre. Now, my treatment to both of those people was exactly the same, because both of those people, or both of those family units, ultimately aren't my concern. My concern is the dog. Now, both border collies came into kennels, have been treated like absolute royalty and all of that sort of stuff. And they're going to be going off to their homes, and it's a happy ending for both of those dogs. Having a go at those people wouldn't have changed the outcome for the dog. Now, me personally, I'm dog-centric. But in order to be dog-centric, you've got to be people-centric. And this is something that we're missing quite a lot in rescue. Now, what we can do is, privately to our friends, we can have a little rant about them. We can say, right, I've had this person in. They are an awful person. However, it doesn't change the stuff for the dog. It doesn't change the stuff for the dog in the slightest. I'm just going to go through and catch up. Can somebody let me know what the time is? My phone isn't telling me what the time is, and I have no idea, like, if I'm talking too much. Thank you, Anita. That's really nice to hear. Absolutely. So yeah, it's difficult for owners who experience a bite, and they've formed that bond with their dog, and they have to give it up. I mean, imagine in your situation, you never know if your life's going to change. And rescue centres, they do exist for good reason. Rescue does exist for good reason. It's not just a place to dump your dog. It's not just a place for stray dogs or anything like that. What it is it's a place for looking after dogs. It's a place for looking after people that are struggling. And it's also a place for keeping dogs safe from the people that aren't struggling and are just being a little bit difficult about stuff. Sometimes the owners are doing their very best and the dog is not just not a good fit for that environment and lifestyle. 100%, absolutely 100%. Jasmine, I know that you logged in a little bit late, so my favourite phrase that I say to pretty much all dog owners that I get is, and I've made a lot of people cry with this, which my intention isn't to make people cry, is have you done the best that you can with the knowledge that you've got? Think back to your first dogs. The majority of us in this group are seasoned dog professionals or long-term dog owners. And we've all made mistakes with our dogs. We've all been overwhelmed by our dogs and stuff like that. Some of us have gone out and we've worked on it. Some of us have rehomed dogs. Some of us have sold dogs. Now, all of that is okay. It is okay. And to change the public's perception of rescue, we need to stop being so horrible to people, basically. We need to start being caring to them and understanding, because everybody's speaking from a different hymn sheet. And what we need to do is we need to care for the dog in our care. Absolutely, Rebecca. So next time they may speak to us about a new dog. So say, for example, if they turn up again, we can say, okay, we're going to talk through. This dog needs to go home and you will be signed up for a 6-week training course. We'll perhaps sort you out with an older dog that maybe doesn't have these issues and all of that sort of stuff. Angela, absolutely spot on. Sandy, hello. 12:15, everybody's saying 12:15, fantastic. Okay, so I'm just going to take another little look at my notes. George has decided that he wants to lie here, and it looks like he's completely rejecting me. This is the kind of judgment I was talking about, George. Yes, you, sir. Okay, so another sign over. This is just basically a list of stories. A lot of you guys might have seen this. There was a Nova Scotia Tolling Retriever that came into Cardiff Dogs Home, and I wanted to talk to you about him. So Teddy that came into Cardiff Dogs Home, absolutely lovely dog. I was contacted by one of the Toller societies, there's 2 of them and I can never remember who's who, saying that it was during lockdown, the dog had bitten and that they needed some help, basically. So I went over, did an emergency assessment. They said that they did want to give the dog up, but they gave their training plan a good go. So I sent them over their training plan, and they did kind of do some of it, not all of it. The thing is, we put really high expectations on our clients to get everything done perfectly, and the reality of it is that that very rarely happens. And they decided, I got an email off them late one night saying that the dog had lunged and barked at them again, not actually made contact, but they didn't feel safe around their dog. So Teddy came down to Cardiff Dogs Home and I did some training with him. He did need that training. He did need an expert to handle him rather than just a family. And he now lives on the south coast somewhere and he gets to run and play in the sea and all sorts. I've got the owner on Facebook and I'm obsessed with watching videos of him. Now again, just because they signed their dog over to a rescue, because they gave up on their dog, and I say that in inverted commas, does not mean they are bad people, does not mean that they do not deserve a dog. What they need is education. What they need is to know the right breed. What they need is to be able to understand the right breed. And that is absolutely fine. That's another one where I could just give them a right bollocking for basically giving up on their dog, not doing the training with their dog and all of that sort of stuff. But it does nothing. It does absolutely nothing to help the dog in that particular situation. So I've given you a couple of stories really. I've got another 2 little stories. If anybody wants to ask any questions about rescue, feel free, because I'm going to be going through and answering a couple of questions later on. But essentially, I've given you some stories about some sign-overs, given you some stories about some people that have adopted dogs and struggled. And we have another one as well. So we have, there's a little staffy, Cardiff Dog Home at the moment. She's absolutely beautiful, very, very nervous. She didn't go out of the house for the first couple of years of her life, really. She was just used as a breeding machine. So, understandably, very, very nervous about outside. And by the way, those people that use dogs as breeding machines, we can bollock them. That's fine. Those people we can have a go at. That's my one rule. So she came into Cardiff Dog Home, very, very nervous, got adopted out, and due to some poor advice from a trainer that they hired, was rushed into an introduction with another dog and bit the other dog. Did the proper staffy style, I'm going to hold onto your face and not let go. Excellent stuff. So, and again, they brought that dog back. They were like, we can't trust her anymore. She's untrustworthy. She's a nasty dog. Now, those sorts of words, as dog trainers, gets our backs up. I don't believe that there is such thing as a nasty dog. I think there's sharp dogs. I think there's hard-headed working dogs and stuff like that. But I don't think nasty is a word that we can use to describe our dogs, really. And certainly in this situation, she was a very, very she is still a very, very fearful dog. And she was rushed into a situation that she wasn't ready for. And this, again, was down to a lack of education. So this is one of the reasons that myself and Emma Taylor from Rat Pack Dog Services, what we're doing is we're creating an online course for Cardiff Dogs Home that is kind of going to go through everything, so that it teaches people, don't rush your dog into interactions with other dogs, don't rush your dog into these situations. The thing that's missing is responsible education, and it does need to be admonishing people, saying, you shouldn't do that, you should get that slip lead off that dog, how dare you walk that dog in a prong collar, why do you do that, and all of that sort of thing. It doesn't do anything to educate people, it doesn't at all. So say, for example, I got a client that came to me a while ago with a dog on a prong collar, and what I did was I could have gone, we're going to put that in the bin. Remember those fashionable videos? I did one, actually. It came up in my memories of me throwing a choke chain in a bin. And because we've all been there, we've all done that. But with these particular people, I said, you know what? We'll keep the dog on the prong for now. That's absolutely fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to teach them how to walk loose lead. We're going to use food, we're going to use rewards, and we're going to use science. And eventually what they did was they said, you know what, we've thrown our prong in the bin because we don't need it anymore, because we have been educated otherwise. We need to do the same thing with rescue, with all of these different situations. It's education that's missing, basically, and that needs to be more widely available. It does. I think the good thing about lockdown is that more and more stuff like this, like thank you Ruby for putting this on, more and more stuff like this is going to come out, more and more videos, more and more resources. It does mean there's going to be resources from less desirable places. However, there is going to be more of it, which is a very, very good thing. So, just reading through the comments, 1000% on treating both kinds of owners the same at drop-off. You never know when the owner is pretending to be happy or fine, while leaving their dog as a defence mechanism. Letting themselves be sad in that moment can sometimes be just too vulnerable for them, surrounded by shelter staff they don't even know. You know what? That's absolutely spot on. That is a really, really wonderfully phrased. So I know that when I'm nervous, so you saw at the beginning of this video, I was nervous. I've settled into myself a little bit now. I laugh a lot. I'm one of those nervous laughers. I once got told off for laughing during a pap smear, because when I'm nervous, I laugh, which means I smile, which means I seem happy-go-lucky, whereas actually underneath it all, I'm nervous. Same with our dogs, the 4 Fs, fight, flight, freeze, flirt, or fool around. I quite often go fool around, and that still applies to our clients as well. Quite often they laugh and they joke, but underneath it all, it's a lot more than that. I've lost count of the amount of clients that I've accidentally made cry, not because I'm horrible to them, because I'm nice to them and they felt listened to. And they've gone from this happy laughing to suddenly floods of tears, because actually just underneath it all, underneath that surface, they've had to let it all out and have a big cry, and that's okay. Unfortunately, I'm not a hugger. Anybody that knows me will know this. I'm the sort of person that goes, there, you're okay. And the amount of times that a client has got upset and I've been tempted to click and treat and like throw sausages at them, which is apparently, you shouldn't throw sausages at crying clients. It's not a good idea. As a trainer, how do you successfully connect with rescues? Big question. So the way that I got this job down here was a little bit of an odd one, actually. So I was hired to do a behaviour consultation for a newly adopted dog. Went down, she's a little bit reactive to other dogs, did the behaviour consultation. I found out at the end of the consultation that actually it was an interview and that she was the head of the charity and she wanted to employ me. So the way that I got into Cardiff Dogs Home was a bit odd. What I would certainly do, though, is a lot of rescues, they want volunteers. They want all sorts of stuff like that. I'm just going to keep an eye on where George is going. He's got up from his nap and I just want to keep an eye on him. So go and volunteer at these rescues. Go and offer your services. One thing I would say is I would only recommend experienced trainers do it. There's a bit of a vogue at the moment of, or there has been for a couple of years, of newly starting out trainers going and practicing on rescue dogs. And personal feeling is that I'm not a big fan of the ethics of that. These dogs, they do need an expert, not somebody having a go, basically. I'd far rather people admitted that they and their dog aren't a good fit than struggle on hating it. See it a lot with hounds. They look pretty, but they aren't for everyone. Don't I know that? Funnily enough, somebody messaged me this morning. They decided to not come down and do a second introduction with a dog that I've got down here. And the reason that they decided that was because they decided that she was going to be too much for them. And they were like, we're so sorry. And I was like, don't apologise. It's fine. You've said that this dog's too much for you. So let's have a look at what dogs we've got in that aren't going to be too much for you. Let's have a look at the right situations. George, have you decided you're bored now? I'll take him back into his kennel in a bit. Our dog was handed over to the dog's home before we got her because she was too much to handle. We always say we're so glad she was handed over because she could have ended up having severe issues. Absolutely. I'm so glad that my foxhound ended up in rescue because she is a difficult dog. She's not an easy dog at all. And I'm glad that she ended up this way. Condemnation only forms resentment. Working with people helps the dogs. Absolutely. And we are falling down a slippery slope of condemning rescues and people condemning rescues. If you have a look at any local hubs, if there's a stray dog or something like that, somebody normally posts a picture of, I don't know, somebody's terrier running down the street, and people say, you've got to report to the dog warden because that is law. And they say, no, I don't want to report to the dog warden because then they'll take it to the dog pound and put it to sleep. And that comes from us being horrible to people. It comes from us not forming those networks and reaching out into the community and all of that sort of stuff. I think I joined at was that the moment that I mentioned pap smears? I'm so sorry. Remembering Boris, absolutely. So Boris's story, he is, he was, this was like 4 or 5 years ago now, bull breed mix. I was working at commercial kennels at the time, and I actually judged those people at the time. I did, and then I kind of formed a new opinion. What they did was they booked him in for a weekend. They said this really long story about the fact they had to go to somebody's funeral or something like that, booked him in for a couple of nights, and then just never came and picked the dog up. We actually managed to track them down much later on after we'd found the dog rescue space with the wonderful Chris. And essentially the dog had been too much for them. They were frightened of going to a rescue because they didn't want him to be put to sleep. And actually the whole reason behind him going into, they did what they believed was best for their dog. They put him into a kennel where they knew that people's job was to care for them. George, what's this? Come on then. We don't want to just stand and stare at the gates. Thank you, sir. I'll take him back into his kennel in a moment. I'm going to give you guys a tour of the kennels. We're going to come this way? Ready? Go and get that. Fantastic. Throwing sausages for him, keep him entertained. So yeah, absolutely. I judge Boris's owners for signing him over, or not even signing him over, for dumping him at the kennels. We get it down here as well at Cardiff Dogs Home. Thankfully, it hasn't happened in a while, but people will tie dogs to the posts in the middle of the night and leave them there. And again, we could say those people are awful. We could say they are the most horrible people that have ever existed. Absolutely, yeah. They were Polish, so they didn't really understand how the system worked in the UK. I think we've got somebody from Poland that's watching now. Can you let us know what the rescue and sort of city pound situation is there? What happens with stray dogs? What's kind of expected out there? I don't really know. But yeah, the proverbial dog tied to the gate. Generally speaking, it's not a dumping of the dog. What they've done is they have decided that these people know how to care for dogs and that they want to help these dogs. So what they did was they did what they thought was best. Quite often, I know at Cardiff Dogs Home, if the dog's not vaccinated or neutered, there's a sign-over fee of £50. So a lot of people, they can't afford that. We had an elderly Labrador that came in, and she was found straying. Very elderly, could hardly walk, could hardly move, and we could say, and nobody came forward to claim her. We could say, oh my God, those people are awful. How awful of them to just let that dog stray and just dump it. Ended up at the dog pound. Turns out once we got in contact with the owner, who I'm not certain what the end of that story is, I'll find out and let you guys know, that he was rushed into hospital with COVID, couldn't breathe, and there was nobody around to look after the dog, so he let it out into the street, hoping that somebody would pick up the dog and take care of her, because he had no other options. There's always a person and a story behind the situation. That's basically what I'm getting at. Could somebody let me know the time again so that I don't overrun? What I'm going to do is I am going to give you a little tour around the kennels and introduce you to a couple of the dogs. It's going to be very, very noisy. And I'm just going to clip George onto his lead. Thank you very much, Georgington. Excellent. Right. Let's just hope that there's no dogs out and about so that you're not going to lunge and bark at anyone. Excellent. All right, bear with me for a moment. Oh. It's like getting out of Fort Knox in this garden. 12:30, fantastic. So we might run to about 45 minutes with this one. It might not be the longest chat in the world. Excellent. So we're going to take lovely George out to his kennel. That ridiculous huge tail. So George is a lucky boy. George, ready? Oh, then in you go. Good lad. George is a lucky boy and has one of our massive kennels. Georgie. Yeah, good boy. You thought about eating the collie up the thing, didn't you? There we go. So these are the nasty, horrible council pounds they tell you about. Nice and warm. He's got his bed, got his raised feeders. You've eaten all of your food, haven't you, George? George, come get that. There we go. Excellent. There we go. So, he is lovely. He is up for adoption. If anybody wants, I'm going to come and take his harness off later. Don't worry, I'm not that horrible. If anybody wants a large idiot of a dog who just wants to sleep on your sofa and maybe go for the occasional adventure, not very often, he's up for adoption. The harness, it's a Hakiana harness, and it's because he can be a bit of an escape artist. Quiet kennel, that's the quiet block. We are about to go into the much, much louder block where it will kick off, ultimately. Now, I have to skip past a couple because we do have police seize dogs in. So remember me saying about the border collie that ate the woman with the cheese. This is little Griff. Shouting going on over there. So this is little Griff. He's happy in his kennel. You good boy, aren't you? Yeah, good boy. Fantastic. Good boy. Excellent. So I thought you guys deserved a little tour. We have normally got a German Shepherd in there. As you can see, we're quite quiet down here at the moment. Please let me know if you can't hear me properly. What we've got here, this is little Lola. Little Lola was signed over because we keep it fairly quiet down here. She was signed over. You can see that she's quite underweight. She's put on a little bit of weight now, but she's a little bit skinny. She was signed over because she kept stealing the kids' food. And it's because you were starving, wasn't it, sweetheart? No delicious girly. Excellent. Hello, buddy. Hello, buddy. What's this? You ready? Sausage. Really nice. City dog pound for you. Got a loopy little staffy. I have no idea who you are. You've got little Rocket who might bark at me. Not keen on the idea of food. Very, very worried, so I'm going to move on. We've got little Ollie, elderly Jack Russell, signed over for resource guarding. I have no idea who this is, but it's very pretty. I know. You're beautiful, aren't you? Excellent. I'm going to show you one of my favourite dogs now. I'm going to show you Barry the collie. His eyes are too close together. And he's a little bit of a dork, aren't you? You're a bit of a dork. So Barry was just found straying, and he's fantastic. He's just a bit of a weirdo. Bit of a weirdo, Barry. He's also very foodie. I have no idea who this delicious little creature is. I have a feeling you might be. Oh, I know. Have a sausage. A sausage for your troubles. Whoever's there, this is Lyra. Lyra is incredible. She is an absolute jerk, but I love her to bits. What's going on, Lyra? Can we sit? Can we sit? Thank you very much, Lyra. Good girlie. And she's definitely available for adoption. I think she'd make a fantastic sports dog. Absolutely anything. And we have our little Trudy. This is our bed eater. This is our little bed eater. Good girlie. She's going to have a play with my pup later. I love Barry as well. He's called Barry because he was found in Barry. It's not that interesting. There we go. And this is my boy Zach. We're going to go in and see Zach. Some of you guys might know Zach from my page. Excuse me. Hello, baby dog. So Zach was at another local authority pound. He was due to be euthanised for his aggression towards dogs and people. And he is doing really, really well here. He is friends with my foxhound. And he's still a bit reactive to other dogs, but as you can see. Laurie Lou, we're at Cardiff Dogs Home. And isn't he delicious? Excuse the scar on the back of his head. He had a lump removed from the back of his head. He's also got a problem where if he shakes his head, he cuts his ear on his collar, hence the weird vet-wrapped collar. I had somebody ask me if I had an e-collar on him the other day, which isn't the case. Good boy, aren't you? Fantastic. Right, we're not going to try and... Right, I've run out of sausages at the perfect moment where I need to get out of the kennel. Go and get that. He doesn't know I threw dust. I feel awful. I'm sorry, Zach. Excellent. So that's what a city dog pound looks like. I thought, like I said, it was poor planning on my part to not plan my day and do this from a quiet place, but I thought you guys might want to see. And it's very, very interesting down here. There's lots and lots going on. We're quite quiet in the kennels at the moment. We've got 44 kennels. Hang on, we've got a Griff wiggling at us. What do you want, Griff? What? You're waiting for your dad to come and pick you up, aren't you? So yeah, switch it around again. This is your city dog pound. Lots and lots of stuff going on. And there we go. So, has anybody got any questions to end all of that with, now that I've removed myself from where it is quite so noisy? You end up with ringing ears after being down here for a day. And you'd be surprised, it doesn't smell as bad as you think it would. They keep it fairly clean. I'm just coming and hiding. This is our little, one of our runs where the dogs can come out and exercise and do little bits. This has been eaten because we have a German Shepherd in at the moment that dragged this entire sofa from here to here because he's a lunatic. So, has anybody got any questions, basically, about how to deal with these people? My opinion of it is, and I say opinion, it's quite a forthright opinion. Anybody that knows me knows that my opinions are quite forthright. Generally speaking, even if the person is signing the dogs over for a wrong reason. So, like, say, for example, that Border Collie that she was signed over because she chewed a bed. Years ago, I remember seeing a little Westie being signed over. Somebody brought him down in brand new, top of the range, like Range Rover, and he was being brought over specifically because he pissed on the rug. And we can judge those people. We can judge those people. However, we shouldn't. Because by judging those people, by making these kind of assumptions, by admonishing them, by having a go at them and all of that sort of thing, we don't actually help the dogs within our care at all. We don't get those dogs safe. It just doesn't happen. What tends to happen is people then relinquish the dog to us and they don't want to go rescue anymore and they want to go and buy a puppy from somewhere. Now, I've got a bought puppy myself. I have a Nova Scotia Tolling Retriever. Came from a very, very good breeder. I also have 3 rescues. I'm adopt and shop. That's kind of my opinion of stuff. This isn't an adopt, don't shop rant in the slightest. What it is when we're... absolutely, I've just spotted that. The dogs are getting a second chance to find a great home. And that's it. We need to offer people a second chance. Even if those people are doing it for the wrong reasons. The dog and the person, we need to be dog-centric. And by helping and being nice to those people, even if you don't agree with their decisions, what happens then is you are helping that dog. And the dog comes first. In Portugal, the dogs are rarely surrendered. They're usually tied to trees near the shelter, on the gate, abandoned on the street, and worst of all, we get calls of puppies found in bins and bags or boxes. We had an awful story down here not long ago where a little terrier with a broken leg was found in a box. And she got brought into Cardiff Dogs Home, and we paid for all of her surgery, all of that sort of stuff. And I believe she's now been adopted, actually. I think she's having a wonderful life. I know that in the UK, the thing is, in the UK we're very lucky. We've got rescues coming out of our ears. And strangely enough, the lockdown pup rush hasn't really happened yet, or certainly it hasn't at Cardiff Dogs Home. So there is space, and there's space and time to help these people and help these dogs at the moment. Whereas you compare to sort of different countries where there isn't that help and there isn't that government support, because obviously Cardiff Dogs Home is all council funded. We've got a charity that overlooks the dogs home that provides kind of all of the extra and all of that sort of stuff. So say for example we need repairs done to the garden, they pay my wages, all of this sort of stuff. And a lot of different countries don't have that, but in the UK, because we all like to complain in the UK, you know how it is, we're very, very quick to kind of go, oh my god, like, these rescues are awful, you shouldn't take that stray dog to the pound because they'll just kill it, they'll put it in a bag, and all of this sort of stuff. And the chances of that happening is really rare. And the more horrible that we are to those people, the more they're going to propagate those rumours, and the worse the public's perception of rescue is going to become, especially these city dog pounds. Having a little... There we go. Do you ever contact breeders when dogs are surrendered? Absolutely. So the little toddler that I was talking to you about, we actually worked with the breeder to find the new home. She couldn't take the dog back, unfortunately, because of her own personal circumstances. So we kept him safe here, and she helped us find the right home for him. Obviously, a lot of times the dogs aren't chipped, so finding the breeder is virtually impossible. But generally speaking, if we can contact the breeder, we will. I run a rescue, 100% need to bite your tongue. I have a chance to educate or work on the side of the dog, while also being the face for rescue dogs everywhere. Absolutely. And I get it, working in rescue, it's hard. It's really hard. When you get somebody that deposits their dog at the pound because it ate a bed, and all you want to do is you want to throw them into the nearest river and then scream. But it doesn't help long term. It doesn't help long term. What we have to learn to do is to grit our teeth, educate these people, and go home and have a large glass of gin and tonic, and then maybe have a rant about this to our friends, rather than making those people feel bad. Because making those people feel bad, they'll just go out and buy, and I'm not knocking cockapoos, but they'll just go out and they'll buy a cockapoo or something like that. Oh, I hate that. There we go. That'll be Rob and his truck disappearing. Excellent. I hate that. Dogs left loose in hills. Thankfully, we don't tend to get that round here. We get lots of lost hunt hounds, but that's about it. As someone who's worked with volunteered rescues for 15 years, completely agree with everything you're saying. That's good to hear. I'm always really worried that maybe my forthright opinions are completely off the mark. So easy to judge those people, but we're meant to help the dogs, and dropping them off with us is better than the alternative. Absolutely. That's what places like this are here for. And when there is space, and when there is time, and all of that sort of stuff, we've got to be there helping those people. My feeling is if you're nasty to people signing dogs over, they'll pass that on to others, who'll then be put off handing to rescue for fear of reaction. 100%. So, say for example, those people with the border collie again that chewed the bed. If I was to say to them, no, you're horrible people, and take the dog, and all that sort of thing. If they've got, like, their mate's mate is really struggling with their dog, and they're genuine people, and they'll say to them, don't take them down to Cardiff Dogs Home, they were horrible to us, they snatched our dog off us, and all of this sort of thing, then God knows what's going to happen to that dog. Recent adoption was taken to the vet for euthanasia for nipping. Vet refused and contacted a rescue for help. Absolutely. A lot of vets around here are very, very good with that sort of thing. What do you think they could put in place, e.g. licensing, compulsory training, etc., before you get a dog or something? I don't really know. I don't know, and I'm not going to say that I'm an expert on that at all. I don't know whether I am authoritative enough or experienced enough to be able to answer that. I know that what we can do as individuals is we can try and put together free training for adopters. So like I said, I'm working with Emma Taylor from Rat Pack Dog Services, and we are putting together an online course that's going to be like a little rescue dog Bible, and it's going to be free for, well, we might put it up for sale as well, but we're going to give it free for all adopters from Cardiff Dogs Home. And it's going to have little things in there like what to walk your dog on, how to teach the basics of loose lead walking, what to do if your new rescue dog poops on your new rug, what to do if your dog's barking at other dogs, all of that sort of stuff. Education, and free education needs to be there, because a lot of these people, they don't get a rescue dog and then want to fork out 200 quid for a behaviour consultation straight away. Like, a lot of people do, and that's wonderful, but those are the people that, like, don't fall through the net, and they're the ones that don't return the dogs. Licensing, compulsory training. Licensing wise, I don't know is the answer to that. I think compulsory training is a good idea. I know that adoption processes are pretty strict. There's a lot of people that go, I couldn't get a dog from rescue, and there's normally a good reason you couldn't get a dog from rescue. It's because you didn't meet the criteria. Simple as that. Common breeds we see in our kennels, Frenchies. People will be surprised to hear that, possibly. You'd normally think that it's staffies and stuff like that. We very rarely get little staffies in anymore. We get a lot of American bulldogs, a lot of Frenchies, a lot of border collies. We get less and less of like your misc mongrel type dogs, and I miss those dogs. I like them. They have to be chipped now. At registration, puppies has to be their breeder. Absolutely. However, it doesn't always happen. Simple as that. Since COVID, only a third of the cats and dogs we'd normally have stayed like that for a year. Absolutely, it's been quiet down here for the same reason. We've got 44 kennels down here, and we've got about 15 dogs in. It's not a huge amount. Better people sign over than sell on Gumtree. I had Loki from Gumtree. My Elsie, my little Kelpie mix, she was a Facebook dog. She wasn't from a rescue centre. And I dread to think what she would have ended up, or where she would have ended up for the same reason. Oh, thank you, Gemma. I'm trying. Free training package for long-termers, those with special needs. That's the thing, though, because the long-termers, the people that will adopt a special needs or a long-termers dog, they're in it for the long haul anyway. It's as simple as that. It's actually those people that adopt the easy dogs that need the help as well. They need the education as well, because it's the easy dogs that they go, oh, I'm going to chuck 250 quid adoption fee, I'm going to take this dog home and it's going to be fine. It's actually those people we need to get as well. What percentage of dogs do you have bounce back roughly? I don't know is the answer to that. Funnily enough, I've been trying to find that out so that we can tailor our online course that we're putting together, but try getting any freedom of information requests through Cardiff City Council during a pandemic. I will get back to you when I know kind of what that is. It's quite a low percentage. It is a low percentage because adoption criteria is strict. Down at Cardiff Dogs Home, we have to... the potential adopters, they have to come down and meet the dog multiple times. Introductions happen slowly. We don't just go, right, there you go, have your money, off you go. It used to be, you'd come down, you'd walk around the kennels, you'd go, I want that one, you'd pay your money and you'd take it home. However, now we don't even allow people into the kennels without an appointment, so it keeps stress levels for the dogs down. They have to send in an application just based on picture and bio alone, so this rules out a lot of the sort of shoppers, for lack of a better phrase. And then they have to go through quite a rigorous adoption process and all of that sort of thing. We don't have the resources to home check. However, we do get like photos and all of that sort of stuff of their house, of their garden and all of that kind of thing, and it hasn't failed us yet. Better continuity of care, absolutely. So even if, say for example, somebody asked earlier, they said, how can I get involved with rescue more? If you were to offer a cheap package, if you can apply for lots of local grants with education and stuff like that. There are local grants available. Obviously don't know about your particular area, to kind of cover your losses with that, and put together free training for people that adopt dogs. So if you went down to your local city pound and said, look, I've put together this program, basically means that anybody that adopts a dog from here wants training can get it for like 20 quid an hour or something like that, but you're subsidising that with grants. I don't know how it would work exactly, but that could potentially be a good option, and it would keep everything open. Why Frenchies? So Frenchies are badly bred. They have a lot of health issues that people aren't expecting. They're also a lot more dog than people are expecting. They see these cute little squashy faces, snorting little piglets on Instagram, and they actually get a hardcore, energetic little bulldog that wants to eat their house and eat other dogs and do all of these sorts of different things. That's why we get lots of Frenchies. I see lots of people saying I've tried rescues and there's no suitable dogs. You know what? They haven't tried hard enough. If you were to open up Dogs Trust, for example, so if you were to open up Dogs Trust, select all breeds, all centres, there is a dog suitable. It's people are saying that there's not a suitable dog within their very specific parameters. The thing is, if you want the perfect suitable dog, you go to a breeder. If you want to rescue a dog, you go through and you widen your search, you widen your parameters, and you find the right rescue centre and the right dog for you. I had somebody come to the window the other day and say, why are all these dogs so expensive if nobody wants them? Our adoption fee is about 300 quid. And I could have yeeted him into the sun, to be completely honest. But the fact of the matter is that these dogs aren't unwanted. They're not. They are wanted by the dog pound. They are wanted. They are all adopted out. We don't put dogs to sleep because they're not adopted out. We've got a dog like Zach. Zach's been here for, 7 months? Lyra's been here probably a little bit longer. We've had dogs here for 2 years. There is the right dog out there for people. They just need to widen their search. Do you find that specific breeds get returned more often? Is there something we can do about that? Yes, small breeds. So small breeds get returned really often. Could somebody let me know what the time is as well, so I'm not whittering too much? Specific breeds, so like I said, small breeds, because people get small breeds, they think they're really cute, they try and pick them up and they get nailed on the arms or the face. Simple as that. I would say those ones are the ones that tend to be returned more and have more return rates on them. I think people are more careful with larger breeds. That's why I'm saying, like, say for example, somebody that adopts Zach, who is dog reactive, used to be people reactive, and he's a problematic dog, they're going to go into it with their eyes open, knowing what the situation is. I mean, he's like 40 kilos a dog. Like, nobody's going to be trying to pick him up or cuddle his face or anything like that. Whereas a little cute chihuahua, they're going to sort of laugh if it growls and stuff like that. So yeah, small breeds. We don't currently offer follow-up because it is a city pound and funds are limited, but it's something that I want to look into. Google Maps, yeah, we use Google Maps, spy on people's homes like weirdos. Rehoming with kids, case-by-case basis. Rob's now turning up with his truck again, so apologies if you're not going to be able to hear me in a minute. I have no idea why he needs to drive such a big truck, literally 2 miles down the road. So yeah, what was I saying? Rehoming with kids, case-by-case basis. So with the case-by-case basis, we have recently placed a German Shepherd into our house with a 9-month-old baby, which might be controversial. However, it's with a professional dog trainer who works from home, and she's got space and room to separate. There's management. We went through multiple introductions, and that is okay. However, we've got some dogs that we wouldn't place with kids because that's just an absolute no-go. Like Lyra, for example. I wouldn't place her with children. She likes to greet people by jumping up and slapping you in the face. And if she did that to a small child, that would go horribly wrong. 1251, fantastic. I think there's such a common feeling for those of us who work closely with certain dogs. I often think about my previous dogs and think, and hope they are, I can't read out loud. Yeah, updates. Absolutely, absolutely. Not in Australia, people resubmitting many applications for a dog and not being successful. I'd say they need to look at why they're not successful. We will decline dogs based on a lot of different things. We had some people apply to adopt Zach, and I declined them based on the fact that, unfortunately, and this is going to sound horribly ableist, but it's the reality of it, the main handler of the dog was disabled, so she had a back condition. And the thing is, the dog in that situation would be a liability. He'd be a dangerous dog, so we had to decline based on that. There's always reasons that we have to decline. There is always reasons. And generally speaking, if somebody has been declined for rescue, there is a good reason for it. Rescues very rarely decline just because they can't be asked. It's literally, that's not our job, that's not our responsibility. One dog can have over 100 applications, absolutely. Lyra that I showed you, she's had 115 applications. One of them so far has been suitable. When you've got a Facebook page, say for example our Cardiff Dogs Home Rescue Hotel, They've got something like 40,000 followers on it. And essentially what tends to happen with that sort of thing is that people see the dogs and they just send in applications because they like the pretty dog that they see. Do you give them reasons? Frankly, no. I know that sounds awful. We don't have the time. We just don't have the time or resources to answer to everybody and let them know kind of reasons for or against. Dog gets adopted, has a bite incident, is returned, owner reports. What happens? Do you often work with the police? Yes, Cardiff Dogs Home do work with police seized dogs. I don't know a huge amount about it because I work with the dogs within the rescue itself rather than that. In that situation where it has a bite incident and is returned, it's not a police matter. But if it's a police seized dog, not exempt dogs and stuff like that, but there are we do work with the police and all of that kind of thing down in this direction. Are there any other questions? It keeps telling me Julie Cockle is watching. It's told me that about 150,000 times. If there's no other questions, we shall leave it there. I'm going to go and try and find out what on earth Rob is trying to unload off the back of his truck. Something strange. It's either a grooming table or something to do with motorbikes. I have no idea. Yes, common that people select by sight without understanding the breed. Absolutely. And I'd say that is in rescue, the biggest thing. Angela Curtis put up a really, really good status the other day saying, joking about people asking for Rottweilers and not getting the Elvis joke. And I absolutely love that. I thought it was really, really funny because particularly with these sort of status breeds and stuff like that, or not even status breeds, you get somebody that wants a little fluffy dog and they apply for a little fluffy dog. Like Bruno, we had a little Chihuahua that was in. Cutest little thing, but he was a Malinois in a little Chihuahua's body. Like that dog, he would latch onto your leg and hang on and have a brag. And you know what? I love him for it. We actually transferred him to St Giles Animal Rescue, who are absolutely fantastic, lovely people. But yeah, and the problem was that people thought he was little and cute, so they wanted to go, "Ooh, I want to cuddle the little dog," and then you'd be missing fingers. Or people would go, "I want a Rottweiler to look big and hard." We get a lot of people that want to adopt Zach for the same reasons, because he's a big, tough-looking dog, and it's actually, no, he's a big baby. Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everyone. It was only slightly terrifying. I didn't need the poo bags, Ruby. And I'm glad that you guys enjoyed, and I'm glad that you enjoyed the little tour as well. I definitely snuck you around for that. I don't know whether I was allowed, but it's fine. Nobody told me off. I figure ask for forgiveness, not permission, was the best option. But brilliant. And I will look forward to seeing everybody else's talks. I'm doing a talk on Monday, I think, about rally obedience. It's going to be slightly less exciting and involved as this one, but it's going to be great for any of you who kind of want to get involved in the sport. Fantastic. Bye, guys.